Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the C-Man. I want to welcome you to another edition of the C-Man's Cinema Sit Down. If you are joining us, you hopefully have your margarita with you because it is Margarita Monday. And on this Margarita Monday, man, the C-Man's got something real special cooked up for you guys. Now, a couple years back, I was at a Kevin Smith Q&A with my dad and had happened to spot this woman wearing these cat ear headphones. I was like, well, isn't that interesting? I'm gonna have to try to talk to her later. And then Kev gave a shout out to her saying oh, hey, so and such that's always at the cantina is here. I was like, oh shoot, this is a woman who's at the cantina. And then when the show was over, it was late. And by the time I rolled out, I had lost track of her. And me and my dad just went home. And the following year, I was out in Cali, drove the coast from San Fran down to LA, and then went to the Scum and Villainy Cantina, which is right on Hollywood Boulevard. To go see Fat Man. At that time, it was Fat Man on Batman. Since then, it has become Fat Man Beyond. And while I was there, sure enough, that cat-eared headphone lady was right next to where I was sitting. As soon as the show was over, I kind of just popped over. I was like, I'm sorry, you don't know me, but I saw you at one thing. I heard Kev say your name. I've heard him mention you on the podcast a couple times. I just wanted to introduce myself. That moment forward, a really good relationship started with me, her husband. Really, really great folks. Every time I go out to California, I try to visit and try to go to one of the Kev's shows. So it is with a great, great pleasure for the first time, really. Or I guess it's the second time. And wait, almost forgot. I happen to be wearing my Jay and Silent Bob reboot shirt. This lady is a star, if you want to say. She was on the silver screen in Jay and Silent Bob reboot. She is my second guest and second person who has been on the show that was in the movie. It is a great deal of pleasure for me to welcome the wonderful Cat Ears, also known as Jami. Jami, how you doing?
I'm doing great, C-Man, otherwise known as Corey.
It's so nice to have you on the show, and I'm really excited for what we're about to do. If you've been living in this coronavirus world, Zoom is starting to kind of blow up as a way for people to get together and have virtual happy hours or just calls with other friends. And it's the only way that we kind of really are able to keep social interaction going while we social distance ourselves. So once I saw that you could record on Zoom, I was like, Jami, you got to come on the show, man. Let's talk about some movies because it's been so long. So what we've done is we've cultivated our top 10 list of movies that we have seen recently. So some of these are from 2019, some of these are from 2020. But in the group of movies, there's about, I think, probably 11 or 12, and we trimmed it down to 10. So Jami is going to join me. But before we get going, how are you doing, Jami? How are things holding up out in California?
They are pretty not normal at all. We are stuck in our homes. They closed the beaches. They closed the hiking trails.
Oh my God. I didn't know you could close the beaches.
They have Baywatch out there, at the beach, making sure nobody goes to the beach. Yeah, not David Hasselhoff. Yeah, no, they have the real Baywatch. Shannon's getting the chair.
Yeah. Yes, wonderful. We'll have Shanon join us as well. Jami's
yeah. Will you go in the room and get the book of? No, I was getting you the book of my list. Sorry, I didn't have my list of films right, but no, it's not fun here in California. Pretty shitty, but we're hanging in there. We're not sick. We're keeping our social distancing, and
as long as you guys are
crazy.
It's starting. It's been about this. I'm heading into my third week of working from home, which is really strange. So that's my time counter of okay, so it's been 3 weeks since we've basically been quarantined at home. Same thing here in Jersey. President was talking about quarantining parts of Jersey, Connecticut, New York, severely. He pulled off of that, thank goodness. But all of our governors over here, Governor Murphy in New Jersey, Cuomo in New York, they've pretty much shut down everything as it is. The only thing that they're not doing at this point is telling you not to leave your house. Still can get out. We can walk around town, but that's about it. See people, keep six feet. I saw someone walking yesterday. I was like, oh, hey, Glenn, stay at least 6 feet away.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's the same here. It's rough, but things like Zoom and being able to do things like this are certainly making it a lot better to get through these long days at home all the time.
Yeah. I know. I never thought I'd get sick of watching TV, but I think I have.
I don't know if I'll get to that point ever. But I mix it up. Like I'll go TV a little bit, do some videos. I'm playing a lot of video games. That's what I've been doing mostly the last like week. A lot of things, just trying to hit things that I haven't done. Like people in my house are like cleaning out rooms and sorting like clothes and stuff, and I'm like, I'm good. I'll get there.
Yeah.
And so
I'm procrastinating now that they pulled the tax date back. I'm like, oh, sweet. But I know it's going to be like July and I still won't have them done.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad that you guys are, at least doing well. You're healthy out there, staying safe, social distancing, that whole nine. So let's get into the stuff that all the people are here for, man. This is the C-Man and Married with TVs. Top 10 of just these 10 movies. There's no particular, it's not like here, we've seen a bunch of movies. We've both seen a bunch of movies, and we figured we would just go through our top 10 list. And instead of doing it 10 to 1, we're going to start with the good stuff and we'll work down toward the back half of our list. There he is. Shannon, how's it going, bud?
I, too, am day drinking for this occasion.
Welcome to Margarita Mondays. It's becoming my favorite thing on the Cinema Sit-Down.
I, too, am whatever time it is now.
Yes.
Oh, man.
But these are just like the blockbuster movies that we saw, or
over the last
I've seen a lot of other stuff that
me too.
Nobody's gonna know about. So
these are our big these were what was in the movie theater like just before coronavirus, and then as coronavirus was kind of hitting. So you should be able to find most of these things on digital downloads at this point, even the stuff that was recently in the movie theaters. And this first movie that we're going to talk about is one I'm really excited to talk about. I absolutely love this when I went and saw it. Huge fan of Margot Robbie and of DC movies, and DC has been taking a nice turn toward the positive lately, which is really exciting. And this was another foray there. We are, of course, getting ready to talk about Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn. Shannon, Jamie, why don't you guys start off? Give me your first thoughts of the movie.
Oh my God. Everything about that was amazing. The fact that it was all women and they were doing shit men do. Like when Rosario Dawson, I don't know if you want this to be spoiler free because I'm not going to do that.
Oh, no. We've done the spoiler free. Like on my channel, we've done the spoiler free of all these. So good call. We are going to spoil the crap out of these movies. Okay. So if you have not seen them, stop, go watch them, then come back. And if you haven't seen them and you decide to watch, don't get angry that we're spoiling them because we are going to spoil all of these.
Yeah, no, like you said, Margot Robbie her dialogue is amazing, but it's Rosario Dawson, not Rosario. Why did I just say that?
Okay, Journey Smollett. Rosie.
When she's wearing that shirt that says, "I shaved my balls for this," for like the first third of the movie.
Hysterical.
I love that. Like nobody would have done that to a woman before, and I love that. It's one of my favorite moments. And the glitter, like she doesn't use bullets for a long time, does she?
No. It's interesting how much non-lethal stuff there was in the movie, considering like Harley is an anti-hero. Like I would have liked to have seen like when I love when she goes into the police station.
Glitter bombs.
Entire sequence is amazing, but it's like why? Like she's using all this non-lethal rounds, and all these people with real guns are running away, just not doing anything. But
he's not crazy.
Yeah, but you can look past that because yes, Harley is crazy, and two, it's just that whole sequence is wonderful. Like from the raiding of the police station to the sprinklers going off in the jail cells, and then the evidence locker room sequence with the bat. Yeah. I was like, I sat there, I got so excited when they said that. Chad Stahelski was coming in to do reshoots on the action, and that sequence in the evidence locker with the baseball bat, I was like, John Wick better get his hands on a fucking baseball bat in this John Wick 4, man, because I really like the choreography of that. I like the choreography of the action across the board. I thought it was really smart to bring in someone as talented as Stahelski to come in and help the choreography. And hopefully if they do more of these movies, whether it's, you know, a Birds of Prey movie on its own or another Harley Quinn movie. I hope Chad's comes back to work, you know, from the beginning on the action, because I think the action could have been even better if the actors had more time to have worked with him.
Is that the choreographer?
Stahelski is, yeah, he started
I have
out.
my list up, but it doesn't have all the crew. So.
Yeah, so he's uncredited. They had him come in for reshoots. He was Keanu's stunt double on The Matrix, and then
okay.
then like started working like with whoever directed the first John Wick. Stahelski was an uncredited co-director, and then he directed 2 and 3. So he's
did way more research than I did.
Oh yeah, I love Chad Stahelski. Like he's tremendous.
Okay.
He started as a stunt guy, and then kind of just worked into being able to choreograph. So like that's why those John Wick movies are so good, because him and Keanu are just on the same page. They did all the same training back during the Matrix, like in all those different martial arts things. So I love when he does action, and I would love to see him do more action for Warner Brothers and DC for sure. So
you enjoyed like all that sequence. You just were kind of iffy about the
it's just kind of funny. Like you're sitting there and you're watching. It's like you got all these cops who have guns, and Harley is not actually shooting anybody. It's like, why are they running away?
I think I'm quoting the Harley Quinn cartoon. She says at some point, I'm evil, but I'm not evil.
Yeah, exactly. Good call too on the Harley Quinn cartoon show. If any of you guys have DC Universe, highly recommend that. It is probably the best Harley Quinn thing I've ever seen.
It is amazing.
So good. Yeah. Oh,
I've watched one episode. I have not seen them all yet.
I'm just, if you hear me in here laughing, it's because
it's absolutely tremendous. I was so happy with the show. Like it has great twists and turns and surprises, and it just utilizes all of the characters. The utilization of Bane being a cross between like Tom Hardy's Bane and the cartoon Bane.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's I'm telling you, Jamie, you gotta get on it. It's so good.
Okay. I do. I've just been busy catching up on. I caught up on all the Oscar winners, except I still haven't seen 1917. That's like the only one I haven't seen yet. Because I was gonna go, and then they closed the theater.
And the world ended. So.
that's fair.
I had a ticket.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So but back to Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
The other thing I really liked about this movie was the cast. I thought the cast was just phenomenal across the board. You know, Margot Robbie, obviously, she is the live action Harley Quinn. I don't think you can ever have anybody but Margot play Harley Quinn. She isn't like exactly ripped off the comic pages version of Harley, but she is everything that Harley Quinn is and should be. So I absolutely love her, obviously, as we've said. And the rest of the cast too. I mean, Rosie Perez, Mary Elizabeth Winstead. What a dark horse like favorite in that movie. I did not expect the comedic timing that she had to like hit so well every time she was like, "Do you know who I am?"
And they made her like, she acted so awkward, and like, because she's like a gorgeous, confident woman.
Yeah.
She played her part perfectly.
Oh yeah.
Socially awkward dork that couldn't really relate to people and stayed that way. Like
and you said, Jamie, like, you know, this is someone we've seen in movies. She can handle action. She is usually a really confident character. So to see her play something off brand for her and just nail it so well, wonderful surprise. And even her choreography and stuff, like that action sequence that leads up to her shooting all those guys in the bar, that, you know, then that transition to Rosie Perez looking at the crime scene. I was just like, yeah, like she shows up and I was just like, fuck, she is badass. Like, give me more of that.
Yeah, she was great. I hope they do an actual Birds of Prey movie.
I do too. I would love to see them, you know, bring in like Barbara Gordon, you know, maybe, or some way, but like have a group where it's just those, even if they don't bring in Barbara, because she might want to use Batgirl at some point. Like, even if you're just using Rosie Perez as Montoya with, you know,
I'm
Huntress and
spacing
Canary.
who Barbara Gordon is.
Batgirl? She's not in the movie. I'm just saying, like, in general, like Birds of Prey is Huntress.
Oh, you're talking about the character. I thought you were talking about a real person that plays somebody. I'm like, wait,
what else is she?
No. Commissioner Gordon the fictional character's daughter,
I
Barbara.
get it now.
His daughter is Barbara.
I get it
Oracle.
now.
Spoilers. Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Yeah, like
isn't that Ruby Rose?
I would love if they were able to bring, if you brought Barbara Gordon into an actual Birds of Prey movie and gave us the actual Birds of Prey trio, that would be cool. But even if you wanted to wait and do a Birds of Prey movie with just, Black Canary, Huntress, and, Renee Montoya, I'm so here for all of that because I loved that. And that was the thing I really liked. Like, everyone was like, oh, there's a Harley Quinn movie. Why is it getting the Birds of Prey title? Like, that's not even her group. And it's like, well, they gave them the Birds of Prey title to introduce you to the Birds of Prey, and the Birds of Prey were legitimately like a separate thing, which I really, really liked about the movie.
It's a cinematic origin story.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I would love to see, like, that's like, go back to Chad Stahelski. I would love to see Chad Stahelski take on the directing of a Birds of Prey movie or a show or something like that, because the action would be so great, because Journey Smollett Bell was also on fire in that movie. Holy crow. I could watch that woman kick things all day long.
That was awesome. And I loved how they held back her power till the last minute. Like, they showed the glass breaking, but like, it's like, okay, yeah, they
cared about her. By the time you got there, you already cared so much. The best moment in the movie was when they were in the middle of a fight. They're in the middle of this fight, and I think Harley Quinn stops and is like, "Do you need a hair tie?"
Yes. Oh my god.
And that was like so something you're never going to see that in a male-oriented.
Oh no.
Every woman was like, "Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Well, it's like, because this is one of those things,
like scrunchies all over my house,
Well, it's like, like anytime you see like an action movie, where you have a female lead that has long hair, or even if they don't, like, it's always in their face and no one ever says anything about it.
Written by a male. They don't know.
Exactly. Right? So it's like the minute that Journey, she like kicked that one dude and all her hair got in her face, you just saw her get like aggravated, and they cut away and then came back and Harley's just on skates. You want a hair tie? I was like, that's freaking genius.
Right. Yeah. When have you seen that before?
Never. And that's the thing that I loved about the movie, is it knew who its audience was. Like, it was obviously a movie that was being, was pro women, was certainly the target audience was your female audience, but also hit all the things that your DC fan and comic book fans are going to want, so that you're just here for all of it. And like, as someone who's not a female, going in and seeing all the things for the women in the movie, I was like, this is great.
Okay, what about Kathy Yan? Do you know about her at all? Because I don't.
No.
Kathy Yan's directing. I'm like, has she done anything else? Where'd she come from?
I am not super familiar with her. I think the big movie that she had coming into this was called Dead Pigs.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing on her famous for, but yeah, I don't know anything about it.
That was like her first like feature length film. I haven't seen it. So I didn't know what to expect, other than I was just like, hey, you know what? Here's, one, you're just, not that I love seeing this, but I do love seeing when you start to like just see studios or people realizing like, hey, we should be diversifying everywhere, not just on camera, but behind the camera. So to have a woman and also to have an Asian woman, directing, I was like, yes, give me more of that. I thought she did a really, really good job. Like, she knew what she was doing. And like I said, I think the smartest thing she did was, I'm not an action director, so let me bring an action director in to help this stuff look better. And when you have a director that can admit like where they're not super strong and have people help, that's how you end up with not a train wreck movie. You end up with a really, really, really good film.
For sure.
Yeah, no, I loved everything. Like Ewan McGregor. Oh my God.
Oh, we haven't even talked about. There's so much to talk about.
Were worth the price.
He was like Wesley Snipes in Dolomite. Like he
stole every scene he was.
He was absolutely tremendous. So was Chris Messina as Victor Zsasz. I love that relationship. I wish they would have committed a little bit more to the fact that it was a romantic relationship. Like, there was like on the press circuit and stuff, like him and Messina were teasing the fact that they were in like a romantic relationship in the movie, and I'd heard about that as a potential thing going into it. You watch it and you can see that they have a really, really tight bond and relationship, but it was like, if don't tease us. Like if you're gonna be like, are they romantically involved? Like just give me one quick thing and I'm there. But even with that not being in the movie, I could have watched those two guys do anything like that whole movie. Like they were so good.
There was definitely chemistry going on.
Sorry.
I will say,
you know my favorite tweet about that movie, and I don't know who to give credit to for it. I can't tell you who to give credit to for it, but I've almost committed it to memory. It's Margot Robbie had more lust, love, and connection to that egg and cheese sandwich than Henry Cavill and Amy Adams had in 3 movies.
I think I saw that tweet because she liked it or something. It came up my, I was like, and it's so true.
Yes,
that bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich moment in the movie. Oh my god, I could have watched like that relationship in the movie. I was just like, oh, because I understand it.
Yeah.
Like if you live,
absolutely.
Like if you live in like the New York, New Jersey, like get that bacon, egg, and cheese. Like that is, I mean,
we
bacon, egg,
did
cheese is everywhere.
Time, so.
But yeah, like that was one of those I just saw that was like, oh, that's so quintessential to like where they are, and like the fact that she's in love with it is just like that. Oh, it was wonderful. I think my only issue with the movie at all, I wasn't a huge fan of Ali Wong, or no, I'm sorry, not Ali Wong. No, Ali Wong was fine. I could have used more of Ali Wong to kind of get into like her and Rosie Perez relationship. No, it was Ella J. Basco. I didn't really care for the Cassandra Cain character. She didn't really bring anything. And I was like, every time she popped up, I was like, like, why is she there? You know, and that's nothing against Ella J. Basco. Like, she's fine in the movie. I just thought that she wasn't utilized well.
Is she a fixture in the comic universe?
Yes. I'm trying to remember who trains her. I don't think it's this group. But she has been in the comics. She's that's I'm gonna look that up. We have Google. I can look that up.
I know that I didn't like at first. I didn't get like why there was a kid in the movie, but it was cool at the end when she actually took her to. She's like, yeah, I'm gonna be a mentor. She like fucked over the other ladies, but took the kid with her, and that kind of redeemed her a little bit for me.
Yeah, she is. She assumed the role of Batgirl for a little bit, so I think Batman might have trained her, and then she would go on. Yeah, in the comics, and then would go on to be called the Orphan, by the name. Yeah, by Orphan. Yeah, that's in the current continuity apparently. So yeah, like I'm not very familiar with the character in the comics, but I know that she is from the comics. So it was like they just kind of wedged her into something that was like. But I mean, whatever. It gave you your MacGuffin that you had to chase, and that bit. Although I thought her pickpocketing skills were horrible. Like how Chris Messina didn't know that diamond got taken out of his pocket. I was like, this girl isn't even trying to hide like what she's doing. And I think the only other issue I had with the movie was spoilers. What they did to Black Mask at the end of the film, like visually and like reaction wise, it was like, oh shit, he has a grenade attached to his belt that Cassandra Cain leaves there. She pulls the pin, and when he goes to run, he falls off the pier and then blows up into 2 pieces and lands in the water.
I didn't even notice that.
Oh my gosh, yeah, like he gets blown in half. Like it happens, like my whole audience like went crazy because you were like, you hate this guy. He's so evil in the movie.
Yeah.
It's like satisfying to see it happen, but I was like, oh, but now he can't come. Like you can't come back from that. Like you could have killed him any number of ways, and he could come back. You blow a dude up in half, you can't come back from that.
It is Gotham though, and everybody comes back.
Unless you're Darth Maul.
That's all. Yeah, that's true. I just watched Phantom Menace last night with my family, and I was like, Darth Maul's not dead. He does come back. He gets like robot legs.
Like canon, he's not dead.
But I was like, and then the fact like. You could have done the exact same type of thing with like, I don't know, like a flare grenade. And if you would have left the mask on his head, you could have seared it to his face, had him fall into the water and just disappear. And you'd be like, oh, he's dead. But then comic book fans would be like, nah, he ain't dead. He's coming back. And that mask is stuck to his face. And I heard that there was originally, I think in one of the first drafts of the film, there was supposed to be like the searing of the mask to his face, and then they cut it. But overall, when you've had the problems, I think that some of the DC films have had, those are all minimal complaints because this thing is just so good start to finish. Oh man, we could probably do an entire podcast on just that.
I know. I was gonna say we should be like,
move on.
We love
we
Harley
should,
Quinn.
yeah, but we should move on because this our second favorite movie out of the movies that we've seen recently is also an absolutely tremendous one. Directed and written by the unbelievably talented Taika Waititi. Jojo Rabbit was
oh my god,
maybe the surprise movie of the year. Like I trusted Taika from jump. Like anything he does, I'm like, I know where this guy comes from. I know that he's a good dude. Like he's not gonna make a Nazi satire that doesn't work. And it's not a Nazi satire, it's an anti-hate satire. And he plays it perfectly. Like, and I'm glad that nobody wanted to play Hitler in this movie so that he could do it, because he really, really plays it well. And the fact that it's not actually Adolf Hitler allows some of the comedy to work even better, because it's, you know, Jojo's subconscious talking to Mary.
Yeah, like when I heard what the movie was about, I was really like not skeptical, but like worried. Like, is people gonna go kill Taika now?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think that's probably the biggest worry was going into it. It's like, I know Taika Waititi. I know that this movie's probably going to be fantastic, but like, are other people going to realize that like it is? And the beginning's a little wonky. Like when it starts out and you're like in this Nazi kids camp and you've never really seen like the kid camps that they had during that time. And then it's like all these jokes are happening. It's like, is it okay to laugh at this? And then like, I don't remember what the first one was, but something happens. Like it might've been when, Sam Rockwell shows up. Like,
oh my god,
the first time I laughed out loud. And then from that point forward, I was like, okay, I totally get what he's going with the comedy here. And then he brings it in serious when it needs to be serious. I mean,
what he was Captain, what was his name?
He was the Ewan
Klenzendorf.
But but they called him Captain something when, and I forget.
That I don't remember.
And so they were
Watch
always,
it again.
but the fact that he's gay kind of,
oh my gosh, yes,
that. So
so it's Alfie Allen as Finkel, as his like little sidekick. Oh my gosh, those two, like that was the first entry I think to me, like that kind of got me to giggle a little bit in the movie theater, and like a couple other people laughed. And then from that point forward, anytime there was a joke, you were able to enjoy it because you were like, oh, I get what they're doing here. Like they're still making sure Nazis are really bad. You know, like when Stephen Merchant shows up at the house, like that scene it's so subtle, but it's like terrifying. Like you're on the edge of your seat, like, oh, this is the guy that could freaking ruin everything right now. And those were the moments that I think made the movie valid.
Scarlett Johansson is transcendent.
Oh my gosh.
Like she can't act. Watch her dancing scene and playing the pretend husband dad with the
oh my god
on one side, and that's just like the highest of the art of acting.
Amazing.
I think
100%.
And the movie trains you to like look at shoes and look at shoes, walking shoes. So when he follows that butterfly, that gut punch,
dude, the amount of tears rolling down my face
destroys your heart.
And it's that scene where she plays herself and the dad, that like thing that like emotionally solidifies your connection to her, so that when you see those shoes hanging there,
you love her by that time. And it's like, oh my god.
And
the fact that Sam Rockwell's character, who's like, they call him, god, it's driving me crazy, I can't think of what they call him. But they, when he comes with his like Elton John outfit that he designed and stuff, and it's saving the kid. So even though he's a Nazi, he doesn't believe in their ideals.
No, and
I could tell that.
I think that's like another important part of the movie, because it's one of those things I don't think people ever talk about. Is like there were definitely people who were Nazis who didn't agree with what was going on, but they didn't have a choice in the matter. Like
they were normal people caught up in it.
Yeah. Right? And you know, like I'm not condoning, and I'm not saying, oh, you should be apologetic to any Nazis. All Nazis are bad. But like there was the fact that there were people who, you know, had that good in them that just got caught up in a bad situation. So like getting Sam Rockwell's payoff at the end of the movie, where he kind of like, all right, like I hate you because you're a Nazi and what you did is terrible, but like you can appreciate the fact that like obviously some people were human that were, kind of caught up in all of that.
When he sees the name on the passport of the girl, right, and it's the wrong birthday, he ignores it. That's when he first realized
he's like on your side.
Yeah.
I love that type of stuff. But talking about ScarJo, I tell you, I loved Laura Dern in Marriage Story. But if you had to give me a vote, Scarlett Johansson should have won the Oscar for supporting for Jojo.
That was crazy. That was crazy.
Like, I mean, both really.
Laura Dern.
She was on fire that whole movie. But I was just like, oh, you could do.
I agree, though. I would have given it.
Like, if the Oscars were gonna shake that up anywhere, the supporting actor was the spot, because ScarJo was certainly good enough to win there. And then Roman Griffin Davis. Talk about what an adorable kid to just kind of like gravitate to in this movie, and like see how he comes from, oh, I have to be a Nazi, to, oh, this is really what is going on. And the relationship he has with Thomasin McKenzie she's tremendous. And I love like the way to make a shot things between them. Like when she first shows up, they kind of do like the hand around like the opening, and it's like all horror-ish, because to Jojo, she's a monster. I was like, oh, that stuff was so good. And then the way she handles that whole situation, those two are, I think, the reason the movie works so well is those two's relationship and the way they just both perform unbelievably the whole movie.
No, that one, it was, I had a hard time. Like, I had it further down my list only because I don't know that I'll ever really watch it again, because it was great and wonderful, and I loved everything it did. But the movie I loved second best was The Hunt, and I will not apologize for that.
nor should you. Nor should you. We will get to The Hunt. Don't worry. That's coming up before the end of this episode. And just to tease, the end of this episode will be number 5 on our movies. And if you want to find out what our 5 through 10 is, you're going to have to jump over to Married with TV and check out their stuff to see the other half of this. So we will get to The Hunt to kind of wrap all this up.
Switch places and do the opposite.
Yeah, right? After we do the first 5.
Yeah, but like you said, also loved The Hunt. Last movie I got to see before everything got closed, and we'll get there. But we're jumping ahead. Because we're gonna first we're gonna talk about
TV Strikes Back.
But first we're gonna talk about my favorite movie from last year after Endgame. It's like one of those, like, Endgame was number 1. You can't move that out, because that stuff is ingrained in me. But from a pure filmmaking standpoint, Parasite blew my hair back in a way that it was like everything you had heard, it was like, this movie is blowing everybody's brains. So I was like, my bar was so high just based off of what I'd seen and what I'd heard. I mean, it had 100 on RT, and then I saw it and I was like, you passed the bar that I set, and that bar was already so unbelievably high.
When you expect a lot and you get a lot, wow, that rarely happens. Tell your story about Leonard Maltin.
Oh yeah, when I was at
Saturn Awards.
No, LA Comic Con.
Oh, LA Comic Con.
LA Comic Con, we were standing by Leonard Maltin, and so I just asked him, I'm like, hey, okay, I don't even know when that was in the year, but I said, okay,
it was a while back.
But it was 2019, sometime whenever they had the convention, I don't remember. And I asked him, it's 2019, what movie should I absolutely see this year? And Parasite had just come out, and without a beat, he's like, Parasite.
Wow.
He didn't even pause for a second. He's just like, Parasite. So Leonard Maltin told her to her face,
oh my God,
go watch Parasite.
Amazing. That's the best recommendation that you could get to go see the movie.
Yep.
Right.
Nobody's gonna have a better recommendation story than that.
He didn't even have to think about it.
Yeah, I'm like, well, he said, so it must be good. I gotta watch this shit. It was amazing.
It was one of those things where it's like, the minute I walked out of that movie theater, I was like, give this thing the Oscar right now. And I don't mean the international Oscar. Give it the Oscar. Like, it was all of my Oscar picks. I had Parasite for everything. I think I don't think I threw Bong Joon-ho, the director, because it was just like, Sam Mendes is going to get something, because 1917 was impressive. I was so happy that Parasite took everything though, because you walked out and it was just like, it transcends language, it transcends race, it transcends, country. Like it's a story that is so entertaining. Like the first half of that film, watching that family infiltrate their way into that rich folks household, I was just like, and I heard people compare it to Joker, and I'm watching the first half of the movie and I'm like, I don't see why this is Joker-esque, because right now I get that they're bad, like they're not doing good things, but I'm thoroughly enjoying what they're doing. And then that turn when when the family goes away and the original like housemaid comes back and you find out her husband is in the basement. This whole basement thing going on, and you're just like, wait, what is happening? And then
there's a parasite.
Yeah, and it was like, and that was the other thing, like, because you're sitting there and you're going, oh, this, like, they're the parasites because they're feeding off of this, rich family. And then you find this like whole other thing going on that, like, the whole second half of the movie, I just sat there with my jaw on the floor and I was like dumbfounded. Like, it was easily, I think, the most original screenplay I've seen written in probably the last 5 years.
Yeah. Have you seen many of his things? Do you watch Train to Busan or Snowpiercer? Or?
I haven't seen the first one that you just said, but Snowpiercer I did see, because I remember when that came out, I was like, ooh, Chris Evans not playing Captain America, but like doing badass action stuff, and I loved the shit out of that movie. Like, that movie was so freaking good. That was when I heard, like, that's the movie that notches me to Bong Joon-ho, because I think most of the stuff he's done I haven't seen, like, from the Korean aspect. But when I heard that he was directing this movie, that was like, well, there's my ticket in, because that guy did freaking Snowpiercer, and I loved that movie. And he just
and Parasite are so much about the class struggle. There's so much about capitalism and class and how they relate and all that, and so he's really into that.
Well, it's like he finds, the thing I love the most about him is that he takes things that are political in nature, which are things that I don't really like to focus on or talk about, and give them to you in a way that's, oh, I can totally get in on this, because I could watch Chris Evans go from the back of a train to the front of the train, just kick the shit out of people, or I could watch this unbelievably entertaining Korean family like come up with this scheme to like get money from these rich folks. And like, when you see like where they live and like the phone service stuff, I thought was hysterical. And then like, when the flooding starts coming in, you're like, hey, you know what? I'm rooting for these. Like, fuck those rich assholes. Like, don't take their money.
Flipping you under the table, some political commentary that with a sugar coating that you could nice chocolate coating.
Yeah, and it's like, you deliver it in a way where it's like, oh, I'm gonna relate to these characters. And then, like I said, by the time you get to the end of the movie, and like Kang Ho Song, who plays the dad in the film, wow, like, he's so. I mean, like, we'll give shout Sun Kyun Lee, Yeo Jang Jo, and Woo Sik Choi. They are tremendous. The acting is just so good across the board. Like, and like I said, it transcends language. Like, I know a lot of people shy away from, oh, I gotta go watch a subtitled film. It's like, literally, it takes your brain 5 minutes to get used to reading and watching simultaneously, and then you don't even realize that you're reading the subtitles.
Like, I almost don't remember that it was subtitles.
That's like you come out of it.
That made me realize that. Like,
that's why it's further down on my list, because my eyes can't. I have to watch it and then watch it again, or if there's a dubbed option, I'll do that again, just because my eyes are really bad, and I can't look at the words and the screen at the same time and get it. But once you don't really need the language in that one.
No, you don't. Like, the even it, like you like, I guess, for me, it was like, it took about 5 minutes and then I was like, good. And that's how I've usually been with subtitle films. But if you aren't great with subtitles, or you're scared of them, that's another great point and reason to go see the movie. You don't need to even listen to the word. You don't even need to hear the what they're saying or understand what they're saying to understand what the movie is. The visualization of everything in the film is just phenomenal. And then the house, what a great setting. because that house is so interesting to shoot at. Like I just everything about it, top to bottom, it was my favorite movie of the year. After you go, past the Endgame.
Oh how awesome was it that Quentin didn't win anything? Except Brad Pitt.
Not awesome for Quentin, I guess.
No, but like that. Quentin puts out a movie. Those are his awards. Like it's guaranteed to him. That was like usually. So. That was cool. Yeah.
Well, it was one of those where like if Parasite had been like adapted from a book, I think he would have won original screenplay hands down for Once Upon a Time, which was so freaking good. Like I will literally watch that man write, direct, and produce anything. Yeah. And it's like I know he keeps saying 10, but I'm like, but when you get to 10. Like, are you gonna go? Okay, now there's 15 because like I like or I don't know. Like maybe it's just the doing everything and like he'll still direct or he'll still write, but like don't stop after like what was it, 1 or 2 movies is all he's got left, I think, on that list. But
one,
just the one.
Yeah, that was his 9th film, Once Upon a Time.
So and because he doesn't count sequels, right? So like I think
Volume 2 doesn't count.
Yeah, I think that counts as one of. Like Kill Bill movies, I don't think count to the total 10. So like if he does a third Kill Bill, I still think he has one more original screenplay.
He has one more left after this if he's doing what he says. But he also like said he wanted to do a Star Trek movie and then backed out of that. So
which was so upsetting. I would have so been.
I thought I know that's what I thought too. I'm like I would see a Quentin Tarantino Star Trek.
He'll do that 10th movie, and then like a few years will pass, and he'll get bored, and then maybe he'll do Star Trek, and then I'll like
Guns N' Roses' final tour.
Yes, exactly.
Or Stephen King quitting writing.
Right, Stephen King quitting writing.
Yes. Oh, that's funny. Speaking of another quick side tangent, because you mentioned Stephen King, Joe Hill. I love that guy. His son.
Oh yeah.
The graphic novel Lock and Key. Which is on Netflix right now.
I didn't know that was his son.
So that's Joe Hill is Stephen King's son, and he did Lock and Key, which is on Netflix right now. Really, really solid show. It's not like it totally holds to the graphic novel, but like it doesn't quite dive into the dark, scary stuff that the graphic novel does. It's more fantasy. But I think season 1, Joe Hill's thoroughly involved in. I think season 1 was more about let's set everything in place to get people to come on board to the show, and then maybe he'll do some of the more kind of weird things that are in there. But if you haven't checked it out, check that out on Netflix. It's
we haven't checked it out yet.
It's a real easy 10-episode binge. Falls kind of right in there with like Stranger Things and what's the other one that I really like on there? But really, really solid. So shout out to Joe Hill. And with that, now that we've sidetracked enough, let's move on to our 4th movie on our list. This one relatively new, and one that I was kind of surprised by how good it was. The Invisible Man was tremendous.
Oh my gosh. You have not seen that. I
still have not seen it.
All right, we won't spoil The Invisible Man for you, Shannon. But
I already spoiled it for you.
It turns out he's invisible.
Yeah. Well, and the thing I love the most about it.
The Invisible Man was another like great like female hero movie.
Gosh.
Like Elizabeth Moss took that shit even when they thought she was crazy and just went with it, man.
I love her so much, and she's so talented. That was like I watched the movie, and as soon as I got like home, I was like pulling up stuff. I'm like, I need to know like what was going on, because Lee Winnell wrote and directed. He's a James Wan guy, so he's been around doing that stuff. So to kind of see him kind of get out on his own, do this, I was like, this is so good. And the thing that he said about working with Liz Moss was that she kind of taught him it's more about showing than telling. So he'd have like a whole bit with exposition, and he was like, Lizzie would just take it and then like convert it physically, where it's like I don't have to do it. So like that entire opening scene, I read the studio wanted them to do more with like their relationship and the abuse in the relationship, and a couple of early screeners, like that was the feedback that they were getting. They were like, we need to see more of this abusive relationship. And Leigh Whannell was like, no, I'm gonna stick to my guns on this because Liz Moss tells you everything you need to know about that relationship in that opening scene.
Yeah, no, that's how it was, because you don't see the abuse.
You don't need to.
Escaping. That's like how the movie starts.
And the way
you need to do things twice.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But like, you know, it's just like it's all in her face. Like the way she reacts and how nervous and how scared she is trying to get out of this house. It's like, oh, okay, she's in a really abusive, controlling relationship. And then when Oliver Jackson Cohen, who plays the Invisible Man, Adrian Griffin, shows up and smashes like the window on the car, and you see that rage, you're like, oh yeah, I know everything I need to know about what was going on there. Now we can just get into the movie. And the movie is just, it's so, the way he uses empty space as a character in the film is brilliant start to finish. Because sometimes there is something there, and sometimes there isn't something there. So like he'll take like, you know, the way like Shannon is down in the lower corner, like he'll put Elizabeth Moss there and everything else will just kind of be empty around her, and you'll be like, okay, where is he? Because the Invisible Man is legitimately invisible. It's not like one of those invisible effects where us, the audience, can see him and like the people in the movie can't see him. He's not there. So it's like anytime the camera goes to like an empty hallway or there's just lots of dead space, you're like, where is he? Is he here somewhere? And a lot of times there's nothing there. So that when something does show up, it gets you and you're like, oh, damn.
I do not jump scare easily, but when she threw that paint on him, like, I did not expect that
like
shit.
The one thing I will say, like, it's you know, it's more of a suspense thriller than a horror movie, because like I was trying to get my mom to watch it the other day and she's like, you know, I don't do horror. I'm like, Mom, it's like a suspense thriller. Like, there's not really a ton of jump scares, but that paint sequence, I jumped clean out my chair. I was like, oh shit, did not think that was happening.
No,
I'd pee my pants. I'm a sucker for jump scares.
The girl I went and saw it with, she is too, and I was like, I'm gonna laugh when you jump, and then I did it too, and I'm like, it got me too.
But yeah, I like, it was just, I just, the execution of the Invisible Man stuff was so good, and then the fact that like green screen and stuff is as good as it is nowadays, like you can put a guy in an outfit so that you don't have to attach Liz Moss to wires for everything. Like obviously there are certain sequences where, you know, if you have a guy in a green suit and he's standing in front of Liz Moss, well now you have to digitally like re-add Liz Moss in there. But like if he's behind her and he grabs her hair and pulls her, like you can have a physical person doing that so it doesn't look real, it looks natural. And they did all of that Invisible Man stuff really cool. And then I won't spoil it in case you haven't spoiled like the ultimate, but how and why he's invisible, I thought was.
Oh, I did. The cameras.
The camera suit.
Science.
It's like what Kevin Smith says when he's like, "Oh, so it's not like they drink a serum, and that's so stupid," you know. Like he didn't say that.
They made you believe it. Like
you could believe this was a real thing.
And like it's one of those. I feel like you could tell Leigh Whannell had watched Hollow Man before. Because like the way where the suit is held up in the house when like you first are introduced to it, it's invisible so you can't see it, and you're like, oh, this is the machine that's gonna like do stuff that turns this guy invisible. And then that twist of it being like a suit with all these cameras that make it happen, I was just like, that's so creative and inventive. And like those are the things that like,
and believable, like we can believe it
so
in
believable.
This day and age.
That's how the helicarrier is invisible.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like, and like you held to that because I was like, if you were to shine like light on him or like directly at him, it wouldn't go through, so it would create like an issue like if you did something like that. So like when she was pulling out the flashlights those couple times, it's like that would, you might see the wall but like the light won't hit the wall right. And then the same thing with the rain. When it was raining and he had to hide underneath the roof of the trunk of that van, because the minute he stepped into the rain, even if the suit wasn't skitzing it, you could see where he was because the rain obviously is going to attach to something that's physically there.
Because he only appears invisible. He's not really invisible.
He's physically there.
Way to say it.
So like I thought all of that stuff just made the movie tangible because it felt realistic, and it was
At the end, though, do you believe like they could do a sequel where she's the Invisible Woman?
So this is
Because she took a suit, right?
Oh yeah, and like
Yeah.
it's one of those like when I watched the movie, I was like, oh, why couldn't have Universal launched the Dark Universe with this movie instead of the Mummy? Because like if you would have launched it with this movie, you might actually have a Dark Universe. The weird thing though with the Invisible Woman is they're making an Invisible Woman movie that's being helmed by what's her face?
I've not heard of this.
Elizabeth Banks is
wow.
has
Okay.
a movie in the works that's going to be called The Invisible Woman. And right now it has no correlation or ties to this movie.
Oh,
but
it might be like more of a rom-com or something like
something like that. But
nobody sees this woman because she's too ugly. Now she takes her glasses off and.
I honestly think I think like I don't know much about it, but my thought was Liz Banks was going back to horror because like she's kind of started with some horror, like she was in Slither, and then she did
good in Brightburn.
She was great in that. So I think it was gonna be a more horror tone, but like I don't know how you can possibly make an Invisible Woman movie that's not connected to this film now. Like I almost feel like you have to call up Elizabeth Banks and be like, hey, you can still do the Invisible Woman, but we got to change some stuff because like you have to be able to link it to like I just want more Elizabeth Moss stuff.
Unless it's a screwball comedy.
Oh, yeah. All right, so I was,
like, that'd be the only way.
Okay. So yeah, I love the Invisible Man. I will make him watch it. I want to buy it because right now it's.
Yeah, I think you can only rent it.
Rent it for $20. I'll just wait to buy it for $20 when it's out.
Definitely worth the purchase. It was really, really solid flick. And the other folks that were in the movie, Aldous Hodge, anytime he pops up in things, I just like him.
Aldous Hodge is the savior, basically. Yeah.
He's really, really good. That whole bit where like she goes out to like the mailbox, like those types of things between the two of them is what made that relationship work so well. Yeah. And then same thing with Harriet Dyer. Like she's in it very, very little as her sister, but that freaking restaurant sequence was like not a jump out of my seat, but a like, oh shit! Like I never saw that stuff coming, and like those were the things that I thought made the movie so impressive because they knew how to play with the invisible factor so well.
They did it really well because like you're like the Invisible Man, like it's gonna be just exactly Hollow Man or exactly like the other invisible movies that are out there, but no, they changed it. They did it like perfect.
Yeah, and then like I love like I didn't catch it the first time I watched it, but I just watched it again with my family. That sequence when she's in the daughter's room before he shows up and she looks up and you just have like the daughter is a like fashion designer, so she's got like one of those mannequins and he's got like the trench coat. No, like they're just like she's just asleep, but the daughter is in fashion, so she's got like one of those mannequins and the mannequin has a trench coat and a hat on. So when Liz Moss sees it like in the dark, it looks like there's an invisible person standing there. Yeah. And I was like, oh, and there's a nod to the invisible, like the original Invisible Man. Yeah. He wore the trench coat and hat.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's really great.
That's a callback.
Yeah. So it's like that, like when you have a director who's doing shit like that, you're like, yeah, no, this is a guy who gets it across the board. And I just thought Leigh Whannell, keep giving him things, man, because he's so the second movie that he directed after he did that Insidious movie was the one with the guy who looks like Tom Hardy but isn't Tom Hardy, where he was like it was like a science fiction flick where he like kind of has like
Upgrade.
Yes, there it is, Upgrade.
Oh my god, yeah,
that movie also absolutely tremendous. I think that was Leigh Whannell as well. So like
it was. I enjoyed that movie actually. I forgot about it. Yeah.
He's doing a lot with very little. Like, small budget movies.
Say that. I love like one-off, like they do so much with so little. There wasn't a whole lot of, it wasn't a big movie. It was tightly focused on a little bit. There was only a few characters and just some, a lot of action scenes in a bathroom. Yeah. You don't need a whole like thing to keep me on my seat for that amount of time and keep me entertained and happy.
If you do it right.
Awesome. Yeah. And all the things that he does in that movie, like with that small budget for Upgrade, he does here with the Invisible Man. And again, on a small budget where it's like that now you're almost at the point where it's like, let's give I want Lee Winnell, I can't wait to see him get something with a lot of money to see what he can do, because I tend to find that directors who can crush small budget films that feel like big budget films, when they get that budget, now it's like, oh, I can do anything. I think that would be fun. And me, I'm always just sitting there going, let's give Lee Winnell a horror comic book movie or something like that. I want all my favorite people to end up doing comic book movies. But it is time to move on to the last movie that we will talk about here on the Cinema Sit Down. Number 5 on our list, The Hunt. What a great flick, man. This movie was so freaking fun.
This was almost my number one. I had to debate whether Harley Quinn or The Hunt was my number one, because I had just watched The Hunt and I love Betty Gilpin so fucking much.
Oh, she's so good.
God, love that movie. Liberty Bell. But I always refer to her as Debbie from Glow. But no, that movie. As far as Blumhouse movies go, I got screwed on Black Christmas. That is fuck off. Because I watched it on my birthday. I was excited. It had a good cast. I loved the people in it.
Yeah.
But it was like a PSA for sexual assault. No, it's not how you do this. So I was so happy to get my good Blumhouse back.
Your Blumhouse back.
Yeah, and it was one of those, I remember when it was coming out, and the political nature of the film and what was going on was already getting a little bit of pushback, and we had 1 or 2 mass shootings, and they just kind of pulled it. When I was reading about the movie, I was like, okay, I understand why you would pull it, but cancel the movie? That doesn't make any sense. This movie doesn't sound like it's going to be more violent than John Wick. I always think it's funny when if there's a political angle in a movie that features gun violence, then all of a sudden, it's oh, well, this movie's promoting gun violence. I'm like, I haven't seen a single movie that shoots more people in the head than the John Wick movies, and nobody complains about gun violence in those movies. So it's either the guns are part of the action and the action is good and you enjoy it, or you just don't like it. But don't be oh, it's promoting gun violence. No, it's not promoting gun violence. Guns just happen to be part of the movie. And honestly, there wasn't that much gun violence in the film. Like I said, you watch a John Wick movie, you'll see 150 dudes get shot.
But the main character is unarmed. Snowflake is what they call her. I don't know what her real name is. But she's unarmed for
pretty much most of the movie. Yeah.
Because she's there's all those people and she's the wrong person, right? So she's there and she sees Emma Roberts
Emma Roberts is in there for a minute.
For a minute or something. She sees her and is whatever, I'm out of here. So she doesn't even know there's all those people or a thing of guns or anything. She just takes off.
It's what Betty Gilpin is just so good with the physical stuff. Obviously, if you watch Glow, you know that she can do the choreography and stuff. So when you put her in these action sequences, she kicks so much friggin' ass. That final fight with her and Hilary Swank at the end of the movie, I was I could have watched that for another 20 minutes. And what was cool is it felt real. When they hit each other, they got exhausted, or they got tired, or they got, and just those are the things I like. I like when my action feels real and the way they react is real. That's why the John Wick movies are so good. That dude got hit by a car and then limped for 2 straight movies. The way her and Hilary Swank or anybody that gets into a physical tussle react, it's oh yeah, that was a lot of work. I'm kind of tired. The hits aren't hitting as much anymore, so I got to do something different. That whole bit with the blender blade, I just sat there. I was oh, that's so good. That's
when she catches the bottle.
Oh yes.
the Leipzig or whatever.
Oh yeah. And and all the political satire stuff, worked. I mean, granted, I think if you're a Donald Trump supporter, you might not like the political satire that's in there, but
it's low key enough.
It's low key enough where it's not forced down your throat. They could have totally forced the deplorables thing down your throat, because that was the big thing. Oh well, Hillary Clinton called people who voted for Trump deplorables, and now deplorables are being hunted in this movie, but it's the deplorables are more like the people who didn't vote for Trump, or actually they were just kind of a mixture of all people, right? Like
they were just conspiracy theorists, and I love that like they the idea that nobody's doing this, but these conspiracy theorists are like, well, they say we're doing it. Why don't we do
Let's
it?
Just do it.
I thought that was
low key, like probably more made fun of performative left. You know,
it was. They tried to be so PC, like that conversation in the convenience store about the NPR. Like, well, who's the majority of NPR? White people.
Well, it was like they took they took like they were able to fill it with like blatantly obvious satire, where it's like, yeah, we're gonna take this and kind of place it here so that it's so like, oh, well, the only thing you could do is white people, right? Like, so that makes it work. Where then when you can sneak some of the more sneaky stuff in there, that just kind of also hits too. And like the script, I just thought was
Animal Farm aspect of it too, like a play on that, like that was great. Yeah,
and like I thought the script was really solid, even though it was really, really simplistic. Like I wasn't coming into the hunt to get an in-depth movie. I just wanted to come here and have fun, and it gave me enough of a storyline where it's like, oh, I can totally attach to these characters, and then you just kind of build to that showdown with Swank and Gilpin, and that it's the cherry on the top. It's everything that you want that showdown to be, and then you throw that twist in there that like you got the wrong snowflake. Like the person you were trying to get is not the person that ended up here, and like when she wins and puts on the dress and goes on to the jet and like has the champagne, I'm like, you get him, snowflake. I'm about that.
You ever had caviar
before? Yeah. Will now. I love that. Like that stuff was so good. And then I like the way the movie kept you on your toes and kept you surprised with the amount of people that they filled into the movie. Like it starts with Glenn Howerton from Always Sunny, and I was like sitting there, I'm like, is that Dennis? It is Dennis.
You can only see Dennis. I just call him Dennis for a long time. Like it's hard to see him.
Anything other than that. Like, even in AP Bio, like he's really good in AP Bio, but like he's still Dennis.
Acted like Dennis though.
Yeah. The show that D had on Fox for Loud.
The Mick.
Yeah, she's D.
She's D. Like because that's what those characters are best at, and like he's really good, but like they don't care who's in the movie and who's not in the movie. Like when Emma Roberts popped up at the beginning, I was like, holy shit, I didn't even know Emma Roberts was in this movie. I love Emma Roberts. And then her head gets blown clean off, and you're like, oh, that's why I didn't know Emma Roberts was in this movie. That's very long.
When she has that bit in her mouth, I thought it was Zoe Deutsch, like from Zombieland. It took me a minute. Oh, no, that's not her. Okay.
Because it was like my initial thought was, oh, that is Emma Roberts. And then I was like, wait, is it Emma Roberts? Until she took it out, I was like, oh yeah, no, it's 100% her. And then her head gets blown off, and you're like, fuck, dude, I really like her. Same with and he gets a little bit more, but same with Ethan Suplee, who I thought was fantastic. And like also, had this movie not gotten canceled, we all would have found out that he got into shape a lot earlier, because he looks good in the movie.
That's like one of the reasons I wanted to watch it, is because he was in it, and I like he's a good actor. I like watching his stuff. He was great. He did his job good. I'm trying to there's like very little I found that I couldn't get past in that movie. I enjoyed it.
Well, that's what I mean, like that, and that goes back, I think, to the simplicity of it, right? Like it doesn't try to overcomplicate itself, and just gives you every moment it gives you is entertaining. So
and I loved how you don't see Hilary Swank till the end.
The very end of the movie, like you hear her head.
Yeah. So it could have been anybody walking. I'm sure it was her, but
oh yeah. But it's like every action set that they had something entertaining going on leading in or coming out of it. Like that whole bunker sequence with the military vet, and like the way she comes in there and gets all them, and you're just like, I love all this. Like, let's keep doing this. I like more of this and less of everything else.
Their banter was so smart and funny and fun.
When the whole thing, when she's like, she figures it completely out. Like when she's like, he gives her back the change, and she's like, cigarettes are only $6 in Arkansas. You fucked up. Like that, I love that. That was like my favorite thing to see.
Cigarettes are only $6 in Arkansas.
And like it's like the way they kept you on your toes, like when they got onto the train and like Ethan Suplee was like, this guy is definitely a thing, and like he's part of the whole thing, like he's part of what this is. And then he was, but he was also with actual people who were trying to hop on the train and get away.
Yeah.
And then like all of the things that they set up in the movie that way were really good. And even though the plot and script is simple, the dialogue is so razor sharp that when you're not in the middle of something action or fun, you're getting, entertainment out of what they're saying to each other.
It's doing a lot with a little.
Again, a lot with a little for sure.
Like, I'm trying to think of what we keep going back and forth. Was Ready or Not a Blumhouse production, or it was not? It was not, was it? It was Fox Searchlight.
Yeah, I don't think it's a Blumhouse.
Blumhouse didn't have it. I felt like it had a lot of like the same style, like
it
different
felt like
movies,
Ready or Not.
But I definitely can see where you're going with that, which also was a great freaking movie.
Yeah, but it was great, and it made me like Blumhouse. Like, how they work, right? He makes like 500 movies or whatever, has them sitting on the shelf, and just randomly pulls them out.
Yeah.
So and they've been getting like pretty good, but he has some like and some, like Countdown. I think I enjoyed more than most people, but it wasn't the greatest movie. And this is a good movie. This is a for Blumhouse especially, legitimately good, 100%. Not just like trying to make a buck movie.
And I think he understands the audience. He knows what people are looking for when you go to Blumhouse. So like he'll do things like Truth or Dare or Countdown, where it's like, oh, it's that typical like cheesy kind of like teenage horror movie, and it's like there's an audience for that, so you can hit that because you're making all these other movies for like so minimal, and then when the big ones go to the theater, they make all of the money.
That's what I like. My most favorite Blumhouse movie was Happy Death Day until
the Happy Death Day franchise.
You can't beat Happy Death Day.
It's genius, absolute genius stuff. And again, it's one of those where, and I guess he likes to do this a lot, where if you get the right female lead in these movies, that's what makes the movie. Like Happy Death Day doesn't work if it's not what's her face as the lead, because she's everything that character needs to be.
I don't know her name. I wish I did, but I don't know what else she's in. I know
she's so good in that.
She's just Tree from Happy Death Day to me. Like, I love her.
I'm gonna pull it out because I like to give everyone their due.
I know I was about to, but I'm like
Jessica Roth. Jessica Roth.
Okay.
She was the perfect find for that movie. That's exactly what happens here. Like, you have a female lead that's front and center, and Betty Gilpin is everything that you needed that female lead to be for that movie to work. And she makes that movie work so well.
And so deadpan. She never is over the top. She's always
she never panics either.
She's always in control.
But she conveys so much emotion without like going over the top, and without like, and it's just you relate to her. She's real. She's like a real person. At no point in that movie did I think she was acting. You know what I mean?
No, for sure.
She just seemed like a real person to me.
And I think you could say that's a trend amongst all 5 movies that we just talked about. Like, all of the people that you're riding with in those movies feel real. And when you have a character that feels real that you can relate to, that's usually the first big step to making a successful movie. And if you can surround it with entertainment or, smart, script writing or whatever, and that's what all these movies have done. And we've reached the end of the Cinema Sit Down half of our conversation. And we've gone through our 5 favorite films that we've recently seen, and we are going to talk about the last 5 movies that we've seen that we do like quite a bit. But if you want to find out what the 6 through 10 are in our top 10 list, you're going to have to go jump over to Married with TV. So Jami and Shanon, tell them where they can find the second half of this pod.
MarriedWithTV.com. We'll do our official intro. I'm Shanon.
I'm Jami.
And we're Married with TV. MarriedWithTV.com.
There you go.
There you go.
So if you want to find out what other 5 films we're talking about, head on over to MarriedWithTV.com, and you will find the second half of this pod there. Jami,
now we have to actually do it.
Right. So Jami, Jami, Shanon, thank you for joining me on my Margarita Monday. You are my first Margarita Monday guests, and certainly
you brought out the fine china,
right? Oh man, I haven't had Dixie cups like that in my house in so long. Now I want them.
All our cups broke, and then this happens.
And then we just forgot to get one for a while.
It happens. Certainly, while this type of coronavirus stuff is going on, we're all stuck at home. This is a great way to just kind of get a little entertainment, a little break from the negative. I hope that we've entertained you. And like I said, jump on over to marriedwithtv.com if you want to hear the second half of this pod over there. Jami, Shanon, thank you for coming on. I'll definitely have you guys back. This whole Zoom thing makes having these kind of video podcasts like really, really simple. So we'll definitely have you guys back on.
I'm excited to see how this turns out.
Yeah, I am too.
So do you want me to? Okay, are you done? Do you need to do it?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Let me. Yeah. So so now that we've reached the end again, thank you guys for coming on. We'll be looking to do more guest type things. Maybe that'll be the Margarita Monday thing. We'll have people come on to talk about movies. But our first Margarita Monday guest, Jami, Shanon, thank you so much for Married with TV.
Thank you for having us.
No problem. That's it for the C-Man Cinema Sit Down. Like I said, if you want to hear us talk about 6 through 10, jump on over to marriedwithtv.com. That's it for me. Now I want to know what you're thinking. If you've seen any of these 5 movies, let me know your thoughts. If you liked or didn't like, hit that down below in the comment section. I look forward to talking to you guys down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, I hope you did. Please give us a big old thumbs up. And as always, if you haven't and you want to come join the Cinema Sit Down, be here during the coronavirus for Margarita Mondays and interviews and things of that nature. Jump over there, man. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the little bell if you want those alerts, and they'll go right to your phone or tablet or computer device, whatever it is that you're watching on. And until next time, for the C-Man's Cinema Sit Down, we've got Jami, we got Shanon, we got me. I'm Corey, better known as C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace.
Well, that's all live and breathe. You still here? Check out a video like this one or this one, and hit the subscribe button so you can get alerts and check out everything the C-Man's got at the Cinema Sit Down.